All of that, we are now happy to begin the Morin Shiur for the Menucha of Sir Naim Dangur and Sir Moses Montefiore. We are continuing Unit 6. We are up to page 9 in these pages. I don't know what other pages everyone else has. The pages in front of me, this would be page 9. The topic, the subject here is Zmira. Page 6 broadly discusses the Deoraita aspect of the Melachot, whereas Unit 5 discussed all the drabanans, all the things that are not the Deoraitas, basically. And then we discussed how far, right, is there a point at which you're transgressing so many drabanans it's already Deoraita, for example, right? That was one aspect of it, right? Or is there, right? Is there, what are the, how far do we go with drabanans, right? It's the draban versus Deoraita generally. And Unit 6 discusses the Deoraita Melachot. So now we're discussing the Melachot of the Melacha of Zmira. We're going to go back afterwards and go back to Charisha and to Zri'ah. It's Neti'ah. Really, it's a more interesting thing. Is more interesting than Zri'ah. Right? Is Neti'ah Deoraita? Right? Doesn't mention the pasuk. We'll get to that later on. Zmira seems to be explicit in the pasuk. In the context of Zmira, we're going to see why the Psik Reisha came up in the context of Zmira. And then we're going to talk about Zmira b'shinui and not b'shinui. So we're going to start with Zmira b'shinui, not b'shinui, and then go back to Charisha and Neti'ah. That's the plan. So bear with us. That's why these are the Deoraita things. That was the logic in this unit. All right. So Zmira seems to be a very explicit pasuk. The problem is not the pasuk. The pasuk seems obvious and clear. The problem is the Gemara in Moed Katan of Gimel.
13 on this one.
Sorry?
Page
13. 13 in those, right, correct. Page 9 in front of me, page 13 in your strange pages. Yeah. Anyway, so the Gemara makes things difficult because, well, maybe Rashi. The Gemara says, Mikal Simin. What does Mikal Simin? Cutting branches, all right? Broadly speaking, Maz Mizaldin. What is Mizaldin? Cutting branches. Mefasgim Ba'ilan is, all right, is standing them up. We've said that's something else. Right, you've seen those, right? Have you ever seen that? Right, you've seen that the branches are too heavy, so they put a stick to keep the branches in a certain direction until the branch gets healthy enough. So minayin she'ein, basically, you cut the branches in the sense of mikil simim, or you cut the branches in the sense of mizaldin, and or zmira. What's the difference in these three? Exactly. Good answer. Why are you not to mikelsem or mizared, whatever that means? Drabanan. All right. What about zmira? Also drabanan. I mean, wait, what? No, you can't say that, right? Zmira's Deoraita, Kilsum and Zirud are drabanan. What's the difference exactly? So Rashi writes, Mikil Simin, a very, very surprising thing. Mikil Simin is Zimur, which is Deoraita. As opposed to what? Yeah, go back to the pasuk. Where you? No, Sadcha is what? Right. Sadcha is what is Sadcha generally speaking? What does Sadcha refer to? To grain. The assumption is when it says Sadeh, it means grain. So there's no zimur by grain. Right. So
you can't prove it, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's yeah. Anyway, so karmechalot is most of what we're referring to. Grapevines. All right, as opposed to trees. What is the difference?
It's not a grapevine.
Sorry?
It's not a grapevine.
Right, that is the difference. Well done. All right. So you see the problem. Mizardim. Which is different from Zmira. How?
It was Zmira, not great.
So is it okay? So that's what's the reason because Simin Mizaldin. Similar, I know. Remarkably similar. All right. No. So sorry.
It's not the same.
I understand. How is not the same thing? All right, so we're not agriculturally savvy enough to answer that question, but we do understand that. Look, because Simin and Zaldin clearly has to be two different things. We don't quite know why yet, right? But because Semin and Mizamrim, right? Zmira and Kilsum are presumably exactly identical, except, right? That's what Rashi says, right? Barring what is done to, right?
That's not wild. Is that crazy?
It's surprising. I'll tell you why it's surprising. Why is it surprising? Because let's go to the next pasuk. What's the next pasuk? I mentioned it 100 times. What's the next pasuk? It's in vain. So let's go to in vain. All right. What about pairs? What about picking dates? Right, no, I'm saying it's what does in vain mean? Picking the grapes, right? Picking the grapes. Okay, what about picking dates? What about picking apples?
No, doesn't think that.
Tiktzot, it's definitely not tiktzot. Tiktzot is to cut the grain. Tiktzot is when you cut the whole grain. So there I could say there's a difference in kind. Because when I kutzer, there's nothing left, right? There's only the hay.
It's your eyes, right?
What?
It's your eyes. Right?
So you're saying that picking pears is only drabanan, nachinami. It would be surprising. You have to agree that it'd be surprising because why is there a difference in kind between? I see the difference in kind between when you're reaping grain, you don't leave anything behind. You have to plant new ones next year, right? But when you pick the grapes, how is that different from picking apples?
Then say shidam.
You could say all kinds of things, but you have to agree that the baseline should be that that's no different, right? That's my point. All right. So let's see the Chazon Ish on page 10. Avodot, what? Oh, sorry. The following Chazon Ish, wherever that may be. Page 14, 13, 14. Dr. Berlowitz.
Still 30.
All right, still on 13. העבודות משתנות בשינוי קל, כגון חרישה היא אב, חפירה ועידור תולדות. What are חפירה or עידור? What? Saying, so he's saying creating a rut is basically creating a rut, except it's not quite the same, right? Because when you're plowing, you're creating a rut that is appropriate for planting seeds, as opposed to digging a hole or digging a water, what do you call it, right? A water channel or whatever it is, right? No, there's a way for the water to spread around the tree. That's idul. They're different. You also, and in two senses. First of all, your goal is different, and also they're going to look different, right? Because if you want the water to go through, that'll be a different kind. I mean, maybe it might be that in certain circumstances they might meet. They might converge to looking the same. Won't be able to identify the difference. Maybe, but probably not. Probably not because if the goal is different, so I assume that also the shape would be different, right? Right? She says the same. Chazon Ish says the difference between charisha nidur, plowing, and creating a water channel is the same kind of difference. Kmo zimur. של שאר אילנות חלוק מזימור הגפן מצד טיב עבודתו. So there's what's it called? Qualitative difference, right? Between zimur when it comes to grapes, right? Pruning the grapes or pruning the apple tree, right? Are different in terms of their, I don't know, it's different.
It's more important.
Okay, so more important, our problem with words like more important, right? No, you know what I mean? Like,
More influence.
more influence. All right, so we still need to try to define one.
Still stands very difficult.
Of course, but Rashi's explaining, the Chazon Ish is explaining a very difficult Rashi, so I can't blame him. It's not really his fault, right? But there has to be a qualitative difference, right? Qualitative, right? Qualitative, thank you. Qualitative difference between Zmira and, all right, נמצא בבצירת כוללות לעבודת האילן דאורייתא ולא קיננה, וכן נטיית כוללות דאורייתא, אבל חיתוך ענפים דרבנן. As opposed to picking the grapes, you can't think of a qualitative difference between picking grapes and picking apples.
Okay.
No, he said that's he's saying. נמצא בבצירת כוללות. B'tzira is all the same. You're picking grapes, you're picking figs. Who cares? But when it comes to pruning, it must be that there is a qualitative difference. Now he doesn't define it. He says there must be. All right. He, I guess, was not a lot more of a chaklai than the rest of you, right? I guess we'll see in a moment. Rav Kook went out and asked the people on the ground, literally on the ground, to understand what the difference is. Yes, what are you saying? For sure, but that's exactly the point. The toladot are drabanan, right? Avot are doraita, toladot drabanan. The question is, do you say that the av is b'tzira and the tolada is katif? Right? You can give you different names, right? In fact, for trees in Hebrew, there are like 10 different names, right? No, right? There's I don't remember. What? No, for picking. For picking. No, I'm talking picking. What? There's la'arot zaitim, masik zaitim, sorry, and la'arot te'enim. And gadid of tmarim. Right? In Hebrew, there are like 10 different words for the same, what is effectively the same act. You could argue that the Torah only says batzir, nothing else, right? What about gadid? Maybe it's something else. But the Chazon Ish says, I find a qualitative difference. There's a qualitative difference between reaping and picking that I see. But between gadid and ariyah and batzir, it's all the same. What about zmira and what's it called again? Pilsum. All right, he says there must be a qualitative difference because he's just pointing out. He says that it doesn't even answer you, right? He says for Rashi to say this, it can't be that Rashi is saying this stam because of a difference between grapes and not grapes. Let's see Rav Kook. Rav Kook went to the people on the ground and asked them, what do you think? זמירה, כמה שהיא מורגלת בימינו בגפנים המורכבים, איננה אותה זמירה שהייתה נוהגת בימים הראשונים. כמו שנוהגים הערבים עד הנה, לזמר את גפניהם הגדלים פרא בלא הרכבה. הם חותכים ראשי הענפים או חלקים מהם, מניחים חלקים גדולים. הכוונה של מלאכה זו היא פשוט להוסיף פירות הגפן. מה שנוהגים בגפנים המורכבים לחתוך את כל הזמורות עד סמוך לגוף האילן, אין כוונת זמירה זו להוסיף פירות. זה דבר אומרים שאם ינחו הגפנים בלא זמירה, יהיו להם ענפים ארוכים, יעשו בשנה זו פירות הרבה יותר ממידת הפירות שעשו על ידי זמירה נהוגה. אלא שעל ידי ריבוי הפירות ושילוח הענפים מוכחש הרבה האילן, ובמשך זמן קטן ייבש לגמרי. על כן, כוונת זמירה זו בעיקרה היא לעוק מי אילנה שיעמוד חי כפי טבע גידולו. Meaning, he says there are two different kinds. It seems that he says that when it comes to grapes, there's what they used to do. It was called zmira, and what they do nowadays. It used to be you'd cut the vines that would create new fruit, that would cause the grape, the vines, the grapevine, it would encourage it to create new fruit, new grapes. Why? Whereas now the focus is on longevity, is that what you say? It's to allow the grape to last longer. If you do that, if you only encourage more and more fruit all the time, the grape will just run out after a few years. That's what they say. I don't know if that's it, right? But so what they do is they cut it back to help it maintain its energy or whatever it is. Why?
Cut the branches which aren't growing grapes, give more energy to those grapes.
Mashu kazeh.
Now they used to they were growing already, doing things
to make it right, to encourage more growth. It seems that he says, so they're right. And therefore it seems that Zmira, what's the difference in Zmira? So I think my impression is the difference is that the Zmira, if you want to follow the Chazon Ish, understand, if you want to say this is the Pshat, the Chazon Ish and Rashi, so he's saying Zmira de Oraita, what's the qualitative difference? That when it comes to grapes, this is an obvious thing you can do. You can cut the branches in such a way that will encourage new growth. Now it'll wear the grape out, the grapevine out. But that's your problem. That's your choice. But you're not. That's only melacha d'oraita on Shmita, and there's also some kind of sense in it. There's the issue of pruning is not doing things to help the tree last longer. That's not the problem. The problem with pruning is that you're going to create more and more fruit. It's not your fruit. So why are you doing this? That's the point. And therefore, the Melacha D'Oraita, again, you can, if you stick to Rashi, you say, Tov, grapes or other fruit. But the Chazon Ish says you can't stick to that. There must be a qualitative difference as well. So I think based on Rav Kook's research, you can say the qualitative difference is that when it comes to grapes, the standard practice was to encourage growth of new fruit, as opposed to when it comes to everything else that had more to do with pruning in our normal sense. I think when you think of pruning, we don't think of cutting it back in order to encourage growth of new fruit now, but to make the whole plant grow healthier. Even causing the plant to grow healthier is only Draban. Why am I saying even? Why am I saying even? Because you could have said, why? No, so even on the vine, right? Even on the vine, it's not a difference. That's once you have to say qualitative. Once you say that there's a qualitative difference, you just have to ask, can this thing be done on grapevines and on different trees as well? So it might be that kiwis have a similar trait that you could cut certain vines and encourage growth of no more kiwis, or passion fruit. I don't know. I'm just thinking of things that grow similar to, right?
All maintenance of vines nowadays is Draban.
So basically, all the standard practice maintenance of vines, yes, all the standard practice today would all be Drabanan, even when it comes to grapes.
Using a cooked, it's then combination.
Based on this, yes. But again, this is what? I wasn't sure if you were saying
No, that's not
no,